So you all should have filled out that half sheet that you were given in the last video. And now we're going to go through this 4.6 synthetic division. My learning target is I can synthetically divide. Okay. So with our warm up right here, we're going to do the first three. I would like you to do 4, 5, and 6 by yourselves. I just want to factor out the greatest common factor from each polynomial below. So remember, we have a GCF of variables and a GCF of constants. Okay, constants meaning numbers and variables meaning like X, Y, etc. I look here, what number can I pull out of here? Well, 2 is the largest number I can evenly divide out. So I'm going to get 2 times 8 divided by 2 gives me 4. And then I don't know what to do with my x's yet. So then I get plus 10 divided by 2 gives me 5. And I still don't know what to do with my x's. What is my GCF of my x? Well, I can pull one x out of both of these. So I didn't leave myself any room. So it would have been 2x. So then, remember we subtract our exponent, so 4x. And if I pull an x out of there, there's none left. So that's that first answer. All right, our next one, my GCF of my number. I can pull negative 15 out of both of these. So it's going to be negative 15 that I can pull out of both of those. And then I'm at d to the 5th and d cubed. I can pull a d cubed out of both of them. So I'm going to get d cubed. And so if I divide the negative 15 by negative 15, I'm just going to get 1. And then d to the 5th divided by d cubed. Remember, we just subtract our exponents. So we're going to get d squared. 45 divided by negative 15 is going to give me negative 3, because negative 3 times negative 15 is going to give me a positive 45. D cubed divided by d cubed, that doesn't give me anything, so it's just technically times 1, so I'm not going to write it. 4x cubed minus 2x squared plus 6x. I can pull a 2 evenly out of all these, divide a 2 evenly. So here's 2. And then looking at my x's, I take my smallest x, so I can only pull one x out, so 2x. So 4 divided by 2 gives me 2. X cubed divided by x is just going to give me x squared. Again, remember we subtract our exponents. Negative 2 divided by 2 gives me a negative 1. X squared divided by x just gives me 1x. And then 6x divided by 2x, well, 6 divided by 2 gives me a positive 3. X divided by x is going to give me 1. So 3 times 1 just gives me 3. I would like to see 4, 5, and 6 done on your paper, and I will check it when I check out your guys' videos. Like division, when we have a polynomial we can't factor. When we have a polynomial we can't factor. Okay, so this means when we have a polynomial that is a degree 3 or more. So you should have that half sheet here to help you out how to synthetically divide this one, and I will be here to help you out. So we have a box right here, and this guy goes in this box as the opposite, because we're just taking that 0, that x-intercept, into it. So negative 1. And then we write our coefficients down here. So we have our coefficient of 4, negative 21, positive 9, and positive 34. Our first step is always to bring down our first coefficient, so 4. And then you're going to take what is in our box, multiply it by our first coefficient, and pull it up here. So negative 1 times 4 gives me negative 4. Negative 21 plus negative 4. We are adding these together. So that's going to give me a negative 25. Negative 1 times 25 is going to give me a positive 25. 9 plus 25. And that is your guys' lunch bell. 9 times 25 is 34. And so then our last step is -1 times 34 is going to give me a -34. Add these together, I get 0. Remember that 0, it tells us that yes, x plus 1 is a factor. So if I'm writing this one out, this is going to be 4. If my degree was 3, I'm now using a degree 2. So 4x squared minus 25x plus 34. And I'm going to include it with x plus 1. And then I'm not going to have us do it during this lesson, but we know we can now take this one and we can factor it using the quadratic formula. Or what does it mean if the remainder is 0? We've talked about this already, but if the remainder is 0, it means the binomial we divided is a factor. But if it's not 0, that means the binomial is not a factor. So we have 2 more examples left. With this one, remember we put our factor into our box up here. So this +3 would now come into here as a -3. We write our coefficients down. So we got +10, a -50, a -90, and a +450. My first step is to bring my first one down. So 10, and then we get 10, -3 times 10 gives me -30. Add these down, -50 plus -30 gives me -80. -3 times -180 is going to be a +240. And then -90 plus 240 is going to give me a +150. So -3 times 150 is going to give me -450. When I add these down and I get a 0, that means, yep, we're a factor. So I can rewrite this now as a quadratic. So 10x squared minus 80x plus 150 is my answer. But again, I'm going to get in the habit of rewriting it with my factor so that when I do factor them, I have all 3 of my factors. Our last example, we take this one, it's going to be a -5, so it's an x minus 5, which gives me a +5 right here. Write our coefficients down. If there's nothing, it's just a 1. So 1, -5, -9, and 45. First step is pull my first number down. So I get a 1. 1 times 5 gives me 5. -5 plus 5 gives me 0. 5 times 0 gives me 0. -9 plus 0 gives me a -9. 5 times -9 gives me -45. Adding my last steps together, 45 plus -45 gives me 0. Boom, it is a factor. So writing this one as a quadratic, because we were an x cubed, we now need to have our first term as an x squared. My next term is going to be an x, so plus 0x minus 9 times my factor x minus 5. Let's simplify this. Okay. We have a 0x right here, so we can simplify it to x squared minus 9 times x minus 5. If you're feeling daring for some extra credit, go ahead and factor this guy and show me when you come to class. And I would like to see 3 different factors so I can give you some extra credit.